Guys, I think it's about time that we finally broach into this sort of topic, especially on this channel. I think it's time that, and by the way, what the frick? That's what women used to look like in freaking gaming. Wow. Oh my goodness. Jeez. Yeah, remember that? Holy crap. It's been too long. Anyway, I think it's about time to really just talk about what I see with a lot of the products coming out now today, what I see for gaming, what I see for movies, and what I see for our products overall. And right now, what I'm looking at, something that's been kind of sitting a lot on my mind. There's a time to which we saw for a while. Americana, for one, is defined by what? It is European fiction. As simple as that. Now, it is alternative European. But it is European. It's a branch of European. What I notice with many white countries now, a lot of European, Anglo-Saxon countries, I'm noticing now how great the subversion is of these populations. And I'm realizing just how great the ultimate replacement is of these white demographics and filling them with a lot of these minority groups. Air quotes on minority. Yeah, what used to be minority. Here, we're gonna jump ahead here to a different cutscene. But you know, we now live in a world today where our media no longer resembles a European world, European people, European characters, European themes, European concepts. The stimuli is no longer as strikingly European as it used to be. You can look at a whole series of characters in a lot of older games. You can look at the storylines, and you will feel like you're being placed within an American world, white, or a European setting, white. Now today, the Europeans are being taken over by Muslims, they're being taken over by Indians, and right now Americans are being taken over by, I mean, all the groups, but like we can say Indian and Hispanic to a good number. And maybe you can say some bit black, but that's, I can't really even tell about that. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of reason to believe that, but we don't know. It seems like the most incoming demographics have, for so far, they've been, the most anchor babies have been the Hispanics, and then we have a lot of Indians as well. And they're coming in more and more by the years. And right now, moving forward, it looks like we're going to be bringing in even more Indians. So what I notice is that where we're going right now, we're going into a strange future where media, as we've known it in the past, is not what it will be in the present nor the future. And I think effectively what wokeness and ESG has done is that now it has submerged ourselves, placated us to these ideas that we must and ought to just simply accept a melting pot diversity world. That you can't follow a story with strictly white people, strictly white characters, including a game like you're seeing right now on screen. There's so many games now, you're going to be in a medieval location or setting, and you're just going to see random brown or black people. Final Fantasy 16 had this. You look at many games recently that have also had this. Tales of Arise. We can look at Monster Hunter Wilds. We can look at any of these games. It's just constant melting pot populations. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing that we can't simply have games for Europeans, made by Europeans, placing you within a European world. We now have to place ourselves within the worlds to which minorities must now share, air quotes on minorities, you know, the melanin populations. They must share a story with the white man, and that the white man no longer can have his own story. That's what we're seeing. Right now, moving forward for the gaming industry, I don't really know what to expect. What I see at the moment is that our culture is dying. And it's already died, but it is dying. That any shred of hope, any shred of rebirth, resurgence is now lost. And forever now lost. I don't think we're going to see a future, for instance, where we truly get a great American story ever again. I think that every story moving forward is going to have the blacks, it's going to have the Hispanics, it's going to have all these melanin populations mixed in with whites, if not just completely centered on the melanin demographics. I don't think we're going to get proper European storytelling any longer. And I think we're going to continue seeing this debasement, this subversion, deconstruction of the European gene, the European ideal. Whatever is European, I see that falling by the wayside more and more as we go on. We're going to jump ahead, I think. You know, you look at a game like Final Fantasy 15, and you just don't see anything like this anymore nowadays. You don't see characters like this nowadays. And here's the thing about everything regarding diversity, is that there are idiosyncrasies that details and defines a culture, which is detailed and defined by who? Its people. A white nation will always create itself and its culture, its artwork, its architecture, much differently than Hispanic, Muslim, or African. There are idiosyncrasies which follows every single race, and even variations of Europeans, from the Germans to the French, from the French to the Spanish, from the Scottish to the English. We can go on and on. There's even idiosyncrasies within one racial demographic. Obviously, there's different variations of blacks and Hispanics, go down the whole list. But those variations, they do have a macro to the micro. And the micro, right, has idiosyncrasies, but then we have even greater idiosyncrasies amongst the macro. And that's where we see it with, and it is crazy, by the way, how similar Titan largely kind of looks from Final Fantasy 15 to Final Fantasy 16. But anyway, you will notice how these idiosyncrasies, they absolutely matter. And they will create, and they do create, very different worlds. And a very different civilization, society, a construct of laws and regulations of the people and their culture. You will see it shape up very differently. And you will always notice that when you just simply look throughout history and you see white demographics and their cultures, their civilizations, you will always notice that their ideals are always somewhat similar to one another, but ultimately, their ideals are also, they create very similar results compared to separate, maybe competing, or just simply different civilizations. You know, you will always notice that an Asian society looks very different from Muslim, and it will be this way for thousands of years. Right now, what's kind of weighing upon me is the death of the European ideal, the European gene, the European construct. We're seeing civilizations right now be taken over, the European civilizations be taken over by browns and blacks. What we're seeing now is that the European mind is being debased, and it is being ultimately executed at the hands of these melanin demographics. So whatever stories and whatever creative media that can be used to express a people and their identity and their culture through their race and through their homogeny, we have now lost this. And now moving forward, our culture, when you look at America specifically, is now dead. But you look at anything that's European and it is now dead. We are looking at a future in which the very living spirit of American civilization, European folklore, civilization, literature, these things are going by the wayside and they're being killed. They're being actively decimated before us. By the way, everything around Arden is very interesting in this game. Some people have the theory that Arden is actually a character that does not exist when it comes down to the Niflgaard Empire, and that he's just a figment of the imagination of Noctis and his group, which is an interesting idea because Arden is a different existential being. He's kind of a demigod in Final Fantasy 15, if not greater than that, actually. So, anyways, there's so many interesting layers to this game, but that's a whole topic for another video. Anyways, man, dude, it's been very interesting to me to just think about, I think that American media and literature and storytelling is now dead, and European is also a part of this. Anything that's white, what I am finding now is that we are losing a civilization, we are losing a people, we are losing their culture, and now we're entering this weird sort of amnesia, this sense to which these melanated populations, they are now color washing American and European culture overall. And in that, I don't really know what to think. It's been very strange because it's definitely something that's been weighing on me. And I've just been noticing this. And you have a lot of these melanated people, they simply want to pressure everybody to accept this world and accept this future, and that you should give up your ancestral roots and what makes up your society, what makes up your people, that you should throw away your heritage. That's what I'm seeing now. And right now, I don't know anymore what to think. You know, it's like, are white people just so willing to throw away and ethically justify throwing away your own people, throwing away your own race, throwing away your own heritage and all the history that comes with it? Is it really worth doing that just so that you can placate the emotions of some brown individual, black individual who couldn't stay in their own country? They had to go to yours and then completely subvert you and replace you. Was that really so necessary? You know, things simply look different, they behave differently, they are different. When you look at something that is Hispanic themed or of origin, or when you look at something that is African themed or of origin, or you look at something that's European themed or of origin, you always see these differences. I think we're seeing the death of a spirit of a people. And it does pain me to say this, Now, this is by design. This is by ESG. Them pushing wokeness, them utilizing the money from the government through taxpayer dollars, through USAID. They've been completely orchestrating this erasure of Americanism, of Europeanism. They have been facilitating this, but what they are doing now is that they are supplanting a population through race mixing, through all of this immigration. You're no longer seeing a civilization made up of Germans. You're no longer seeing a civilization made up of French, made up of Irish, made up of English. English now, you can be a black man and be considered English. How that's not a giant insult upon English men and their history, their culture, their heritage. I don't know what is anymore, but we're going to get upset for the blacks and the browns whenever it seems like their people are a little bit upset. You make a joke about Puerto Ricans and everyone's up in arms. Well, gee, I thought that the purity of a group and their culture and their race, I thought that didn't matter. Why are you so upset? Everyone's equal, right? You know, race is politics, and people are just simply, what the frick is this? Interesting. I don't know what game this is, but whatever. You know, race is politics, and people are ultimately most interested, and that's all it is. Politics in general is just self-interest made social. But you know, race is of course politics, and you will always see this where these people, these groups and their demographics, they will always vouch for their own kind. Now, they will never live in their own countries and stay amongst their own people. No, they have to defile your own. But this is what we're seeing, is that these people, they have absolute self-preservation and self-interest, and they believe that you should completely forgo yourself and completely subvert your own people for the sake of the brown man and the black. I'm seeing an interesting future before us. I'm seeing a death of truly creative and proper media. I don't know what's a great story anymore these days. And what are we even going to pick up that's a great story anymore? American culture is completely dead. There's no new stories. Anyone that's making the new stories, they're not being paid attention to. And I can pay testament to that, of course, with my own work. Everything that I've done, my own work is not being paid attention to. You know, I've made for you guys the alternative, but simply you guys don't care. And I'm seeing a death of the culture of America, the death of the people and their spirit and their soul. I'm seeing how the very nature of an entire country is now just simply, they're so compliant and they're so demoralized. They don't care that they're being replaced, and they don't care that all these other demographics are just redefining your people, and that now through all this mass immigration and all this race mixing and whatnot, you're losing what it means to be your own kind. And it's no surprise that we're seeing lower and lower IQ levels amongst people. We're seeing idiocracy rise year by year, and we're seeing that people are not that intelligent. You look at what's popular now, you look at the stories or the characters that people say is good now compared to 15, 20 years ago, very different. And that's where we are now today. We don't even have a good sense of quality anymore. This is the reason why black countries, Hispanic countries, Muslim countries, they don't have great media. They don't have great stories to tell each other that people outside of their own demographics even care about. Their own people don't care. And people outside of them don't care. There's a reason why everybody knows about Nordic themes in mythology. There's a reason why people know about a lot of folklore that comes from the English, you know, fairy tales and whatnot. Nobody cares about these other races and their themes, their ideas, and ultimately their cultures, because they're not as poignant as European and American civilizations and their themes, their racial concepts. But now today we're walking away so far from what defines the European man, the American man. We're walking away from it, and now people are even forgetting what is of value, what is compelling. They're forgetting what makes a great story, a good story, good characters. We're forgetting all of it. And we're forgetting proper pacing in a scene and characterization. Look at something like Monster Hunter Wilds. Look at something like Immortals of Avium, even. You could throw at that. Atlas Fallen. We can look at that. Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, Forspoken. We can look at Dustborn. We can look at Dragon Age, The Veilguard. And we can just see how white culture and white media is absolutely being torn apart as we know it. And we have nothing a proper alternative to see moving forward. And you know, it's quite frank as this. The Asians are not going to save it. Japan, China, they're not going to save the West and make great storytelling, because they're also pussifying just as much as American media and American characters. They're pussifying their own stories. And, you know, I don't really know anymore what I even think. Like, when are we going to get a great story? I mean, seriously. Right now we have a lot of Asian storytellers, and they're just not... They've been Americanized too greatly. But then we look at America, and we look at how egalitarianized Americans and also the Europeans all have been. How woke they are, multiculturalism, right? We need in a European story a black character just as much as we need a white character. Because being European now no longer means that you're white. Anglo-Saxon. You know, and now we're just looking at a group of people, how their culture is being taken from them, how their own countries are being undermined. And you're being told it's ethical, you're being told it's for the greater good, you're being told don't be a bigot and accept it, you racist, you sexist, you homophobe. And now we're even saying we're saying this. We're even saying this. You're even an anti-Semite now. Oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that just interesting? We're going to jump ahead here to a different scene. So interesting, all the words that you get called simply because you want to preserve your own people and what defines them. Yo, by the way, call me Luna. What's up? Anyway, it's so interesting how we're seeing a people and their noble heritage. It is superior. Every other heritage is inferior. How a superior people and their greater storytelling and their greater characters, superior way of construction, both in architecture, society. So not both, all of these things. We're looking at architecture, engineering, technology, storytelling, just concepts, themes, and ideas, principles, religion. We're looking at a superior group of people, and they're now being erased. That's what we're seeing now. And they're being erased by the groups that are less than them, inferior. This is why they leave their own countries. This is why they don't care, truly, about their own people, even though they will invade your country, fly their own flags, and speak their own language within your own borders. And there's nothing offensive about that, because race is politics, and we must continue to race mix so that nobody sees a difference between a white man, a brown man, and a black man, because there is no difference now. We have to completely muddy down the waters of these groups and their demographics. We're looking at a future and a people and a culture and a heritage that is no longer noble and ideal, that no longer inspires, but instead is just average. It just placates yourself to the norms, compromise. Nothing's really important, nothing really matters. Yeah, whatever. I guess all of our characters can be mixed race because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what your heritage is. And you know why, by the way, your color matters outside of, I mean, we don't even have to talk about, everyone knows. You have to be a retard that is literally propagandized by modern egalitarianism to not know why it matters. But your color does matter because it indicates your background. And then, of course, on top of your color are your phenotypes, your facial structure. This indicates your lineage, your legacy that you are carrying on. It represents and it resembles the men to which you've come from the past. Who are the men that defined you and what you are today? And yes, very select groups of individuals make you what you are today. And that is why we have very different groups within groups, very different civilizations. This is why we have we have a whole myriad of different Europeans. I mean, you have Croatians, you have of course, you have Austrian people, you can just look through the list. I mean, we've got Romanians, we've got all kinds of just random European demographics and groups. And you can even say the same for Africans. I mean, there's a reason why there's all these separate geographies and designations of a race of people and their names, right? There were multiple tribes, of course, of Israel, as we know. And I'm forgetting right now, but I think it was 13, right? And they all split off, obviously. And Cain was different from Abel. There's a difference of men, a difference of their character, a difference of their genes, their genetics, and of course, therefore, their progeny, and therefore, their legacy. And there's no surprise why certain races have simply pushed on further than the other ones. And they come from very different legacies, very different genealogies, and they all competed amongst each other to get us to where we are today. And now we have to simply just sit here and say that none of it matters. The men to which your forefathers, to which you came from, do not matter. The founding fathers were whites. America is white. There's no way around that. And now today we want to say, and we want to sit here and dare to speak up and say that it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter who you came from. It doesn't matter that where you came from, how it defines you and how it defines you and your people. It doesn't matter anymore how it paints the idiosyncratic elements of your society, because it also details the ethics of your people. When you look at a race, you will see that they are defined, and their group is defined by their culture and the group itself, which comes from the very forefathers, select men who, of course, they procreated the most. That is the way it happened throughout history. I forget what the numbers are right now, but I believe it's somewhere around 76% of men throughout history did not procreate, which is a crazy number to hear. I don't even know how you wrap your mind around that. I mean, there's some ways to wrap your mind around that, but it's just simple as this. You know, a lot of noblemen, they did have the most sex with women, and they had the most kin, and they just had the widest spread of their genes. And this happened within every part of the world, every country. So regardless, and I don't know how correct those numbers are. I think maybe those are the best numbers we have, but it's like, I mean, how do you really get proper numbers on these things? I don't know. You know, of course, though, if we were EBT around here, we wouldn't care, and we would just completely trust those numbers. But whatever. Anyways, you know, it's so fascinating because your genealogy does matter, and it is important, and it does define yourself and your fellow countrymen by a shared line of men, a shared line of genetics, which influences your temperament, influences your intelligence, it influences who and what you are. And this is why your race matters so much, and this is why people care so much about being around their fellow people, because you want to be around people that are like you, familiar to you, because there's a proven aspect genetically. People like me, we survived the same diseases. We survived the same wars or conflicts or whatever. We survived the same, you could say, failed governments, right? Because when people split up and they made their separate civilizations, some people, they died in mass starvation, such as the case with socialism. In some groups, they wanted socialism more than others. Or they wanted authoritarian or republic or oligarchic, or just go down the list. They wanted all these different types of governmental systems more than others. You know, the Muslim world is very different from the Asian world. They have very different religions. And those inform their governments, by the way. And of course, then we go to the Christian nations, which of course, Christian nations are what? European, Anglo-Saxon. You have some people that try to say it's African, which is just completely retarded. I mean, where are you finding African missionaries? Oh, that's right. Again, white people, they're the countries that have the missionaries. I don't care what narrative these freaking retards have. Africans are not Christian. They were made Christian. Simple as that. Right now, I find myself just very disappointed with where we're at. You know, people and their race, it does determine what you are. And your race really does matter. Because it shows and it resembles that shared genealogy of what fellow kin, what they underwent and what they had gone through together. You know, just past conflicts, past environments. You know, you survived a harsh winter together in Serbia or whatever. You went through the same droughts. You went through the same famines. You went through the same struggles, and your people, they ultimately went through those issues together. They resemble one another. They have a shared genetic line as much as shared environmental story. They have a similar political story, the way that you interact with your surrounding neighbors and their nations, or just other demographics, whatever. You have a same or similar story to those fellow people that you share your genealogy with, and you share features as well. You know, a white man, of course, why does he desire white women? Because they're very familiar. And then there's a whole conversation about that. Interestingly, melanin populations, they don't like their own women as much as white women. So there is that, but whatever. Outside of that, although there are some Hispanic demographics that will largely desire their own women, especially Brazilian or Venezuelan. But regardless, there's a reason why your race matters. And now today we're supposed to simply believe that it just doesn't matter. And that you wanting to be around people that look like you, that are you, they come from a very similar background, a fellow forefather, that somewhere within your genetic history, you know that you share fellow kin. And that your fellow kinsmen, they fought together to secure the future of your people. And now, so many generations later, to just forego that and say, who cares? Race mix away, water down what makes yourself and your people, and throw away your culture and throw away the ideas that make you what you are and your people what they are. Throw it all away. And for what? What will you become? Because we know that no one's proven to be anything and to become of anything when you have race mixing. Instead, you find a broken spirit of a culture and their people. In the end. So we can skip ahead. Yeah, you know, Final Fantasy 15 was a very interesting game. Very interesting story. So, you know, man, it's just sad to me because everybody loved American culture. It was clearly superior to other societies and their cultures. We knew this first and foremost through the fact that American culture was not only desired by the in-group and many individuals amongst the in-group, but it was also desired amongst the outsiders. Even the outsiders desired American society, American culture, American ethics once upon a time. When you look at just anywhere across the world, people knew Spider-Man and they cared about these characters very much. Now today what we see is that we don't have characters any longer. We're not creating any new characters, and we can't. Because our people are no longer defined by a shared origin and by a shared spirit or nature. And again, that's how you know something has value. That's how you know it's better than other values, other people, or whatever else. You know that's how a product is better than its competitors. It's by the simple fact that people outside of the in-group, even the out-group, values you. Any great friend group, when you're hanging out with your friends, you will naturally have people wish to be a part of you. When you have a crappy group of friends, nobody wants to join. Nobody wants to be a part of you. People, in fact, ignore you, and in fact, you even ignore yourselves. You know, it's simple human psychology, but, you know, understand, man, everything when I say this, everything that I'm talking about here. This is why I fear for the future of what we're seeing, because what we are seeing the death of a nation, we're seeing a death of a people, and we're seeing a death of something that is truly noble and truly aspirational and truly valuable. Something that is not ugly or disgusting. You know, by the way, you will often hear it from a lot of minorities that they make excuses for ugly women, especially black people, black men will make excuses for ugly women because that is their point of origin. And gee, I wonder why we have these demographics, these people, these groups. They try to make excuses in our media for ugly women. Perhaps it's because ugliness is a commonality amongst these people. Well, it's not amongst others, and others do not want to live your story. And of course, you know, you can complain and you can call people racist and say all this nonsense, but it doesn't paint yourself any more desirable, and you never will be. And when you replace people and their superior culture, you will never become that much more likable for doing exactly that. You're only submerging people within what it is that they despise, which only generates more disdain. And that's what's so sad about this. You know, right now, what I see, I think that we're looking at a future where American media is dead. We're looking at a future where our stories are no longer progenerative, and they're no longer developing in a thoughtful direction that is inspiring and therefore causes upcoming generations to aspire. What I fear right now is that the ideals of Anglo-Saxon norms are being lost, and that all of the ideals, all of the pinnacles of value and the pinnacles of principle that are known through Anglo-Saxon narrative stories, ideals, all of that's being lost. And we're seeing the rise of mediocrity, the rise of the average, and the rise of the inconsequential as well. I'm gonna jump around here. Let's just go back to like this, I guess. I don't know. There's a certain cutscene here. Yeah, we could do it. Yeah, the starting cutscene, it's really good. Anyways, man. So that's the thing that's kind of been on my mind. It's just that what we're seeing at the moment And it's so interesting, but I'm afraid of the fact that we're just seeing the death of American media, that there is nothing to move forward from here. We're seeing the death of Hollywood. Is there going to be anything to actually replace it? And I would come to say, no, there is nothing that actually will replace it or be a proper stand-in for Hollywood or gaming. Gaming's dead right now. We've killed how many franchises? I don't know. I think that right now, on top of what I'm saying with the death of American media, is the death of creativity, the death of interesting storytelling or interesting ideas. I forget what that night is, by the way. Do not remember. Man, but there's so much in here that's interesting. By the way, Final Fantasy 15, broken masterpiece. Man, there was so much that we never got out of this game. It's so sad. But dang. Crazy. The story, though, was great. But it was heavily unfinished, sadly. Wow. I have no idea who that knight is. Not even a faintest clue. Anyways. But yeah, man. So, that's my core. That's just my core concern with all this. And like, at this point, I don't know. I'm just kind of finding myself, I'm lost within my own thoughts. I'm kind of taken aback at the moment through everything. It's just weird because I've been sitting back and just thinking about it. Are we seeing the death of creativity? Are we seeing the death of great stories, great ideas, great characters? Are we seeing the death of all this? And I don't think there will be a rebirth because we don't have the right people. And now today we just believe that civilization should be painted by a melting pot and not by an exclusivity of people, right? A race of people, a heritage of people. We can't do that any longer. And in that, I find that we are losing whatever used to make storytelling great, media great. I think we're losing that. And I don't think we're going to recover because I think with ESG, USAID, and wokeness, by and large, all these institutions, all these consultation companies like Sweet Baby Inc., I think effectively what they have done is that they have painted the new normal. They have moved the goalposts. And now we're looking at a future to which nobody is willing to make a story that is simply European, that is simply American, that simply is painted and pictures a select group of people and their idiosyncrasies, which makes all the difference in a great story. And you know, I've spoken about this ad nauseum on the channel. I've spoken about this on multiple layers in different ways. But you know, at this point, I'm just kind of sitting here now. I'm kind of beside myself. And I don't really know what to think anymore. It's become my chief concern that we have completely lost what it is and what it means to be European and American. And that any of our narratives, any of our stories that we could paint, that we could construct to define ourselves, I don't think we're going to get anything moving forward. I think what we're seeing is a stagnating, dying culture of people who have lost their future. And I think we're seeing the death to the spirit of a nation. I mean, sincerely ask yourself, like, what the frick would we actually get moving forward? Again, gaming is completely invaded, taken over, and it's just dead. It's done. Hollywood, the same deal there. I mean, that's more than dead now. I don't even know how we recover from here. And you know, man, I've tried my best to be the solution to all of this as well on my own front. And I've had a lot of difficulty in just simply trying to get, like, even you guys to give my books a chance and to actually get a good story for once. I have gotten so much more resistance than I ever even dreamed would have happened. And it just shows to me that we are having a dying culture, a dying people, a dying spirit to a nation. And these people in this culture, when we look at the Europeans, we look at the Americans, they have simply given up and they're throwing their country and their people away. That is what I've seen. It saddens me to see this. But I don't know where the future, I don't know where it goes, and I don't know what it holds. And one of my issues right now is that I'm just noticing that everything that we're focused on now today is just the past. You know, like everyone's stuck on The Witcher. Everyone's stuck on Star Wars, even though that's dying. But they were, for a time, stuck on Star Wars, but not anymore. That's quickly dying off. But you know, everyone's stuck on Lord of the Rings. Everyone's stuck on all these older properties. There's nothing new anymore. Nothing. And you know, people hate wokeness and they hate all this diversity crap just as much as it seems like they're only willing to accept whatever is the melting pot, whatever is egalitarian. That for some reason, I guess we need feminism in our stories, but feminism is also something that we're going to equally hate. I don't know what and this is what I'm realizing, is that people have grown so retarded, so stupid, and they've lost their way so extensively that they don't even know what the frick they want. You want feminism, but when you see feminism, it's laughed out of the room and no one's inspired by it and no one cares. People want to avoid a feminist story more than anything, a feminist character more than anything. But then on top of that, I'm noticing that we don't want stories with a bunch of race-mixed people, or specifically a diversity squad of characters. Nobody really cares about these stories with a black, Asian, Muslim, or whatever, a diversity squad. But at the same time, nobody seems like they're willing to accept any longer, or at least for the most part, at the very least, I guess, a white person's story anymore. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying, but kind of not. It's hard to tell. You know, the problem is that people are not picking up and they're not taking the alternatives that have the proper qualities and level of quality that it will take to defeat wokeness, egalitarianism. For some reason, we're not taking on the solution. Instead, we're just meandering within the problem. And when we see the problem, we're going to complain. But when we see the solution, we're going to ignore. Man, for me, myself, I am at a loss. And this is why I am at a loss. This is why I'm looking at the future of our culture and the future of our media, and I'm just noticing it's all dead. It's all gone by the wayside, and I don't think that there's a way up from here. Now, here's what I have to say. We're seeing the death of a nation. We're seeing the death of a spirit of a people. And furthermore, I think that we're looking at AI for the future. And that AI will be painting for us our future expressions of narrative, story, and theme, and character. I think that everything that paints an imaginative design will be made by AI moving forward. Now, what does that look like? I don't know. Will AI just simply make for you your fantasies, no matter how intelligent or stupid or how sophisticated or unsophisticated it happens to be? I don't know. It appears to me that, I guess, quality doesn't matter walking into the future. God knows that right now people don't care about quality. That is clear. So I don't know what to think anymore. Here, we're just going to jump to the end. I don't know what to think anymore. And honestly, I am completely lost. But man, it's so sad for me because I think all I can find now is that we have lost whatever American media means, and I don't think we're going to actually take it back. And even furthermore, with AI taking it over and replacing American media, I don't think that's going to be sufficient. But you know, like, we don't know what that's going to be either. But I don't know what I think about that. You know, I mean, maybe that is where the future will go, and maybe that is where the rebirth of everything will be. But like, the problem is that you notice that people, I don't know. You know what, man? It's very weird. It's very weird. Because in the future, I can see AI replacing the necessity for currency. I can see AI just completely replacing a lot of things that necessitates a lot of human ecosystems, right? Energy, products, whatever. And maybe it just won't matter anymore. You know, but it's like, again, like, even if it doesn't matter, maybe everyone has their own story. People need to share something. That's human psychology. And if humans are not eradicated by AI, then my question is like, in the future, how are you really going to have a great story ever again that a group of people, whatever the frick they happen to be, I mean, you would assume they have similarities, but at this point, what are similarities walking into the future? I don't know, right? If we're just going to replace what it means to be American, what it means to be European, and ultimately that means just replace what it means to be white, then I don't even know, like, how do you get a group of people who have shared interests and values and ideals? How do you get them together and then they similarly value a story that there is no economical necessity for success thereof, right? And you know, okay, let's say that the next big thing, the next greatest thing is made by AI, and we don't even know what that's going to look like by then, and we don't even know who are the people that define that thing to be great as well, right? Who are those people? Is it a specific country? Is it that a specific group of people, they made it for themselves, but everybody else loves it? We don't know. And I can have my theories about it, but it's just, you know, I really don't know if we're going to have great storytelling going into the future, honestly. And that's what's kind of so weird for me. That is what I find so strange. You know, like, when will we find the next Lord of the Rings, the next Star Wars? And it's on that, I just don't know. But again, you know, walking into an AI future, there's so many problems with it because AI cannot direct itself. So you're going to have to direct AI yourself, but, you know, there's just so many things about that. Man. But it's like, imagine you can direct AI. That will take time, but it's like, let's say that you can do it, and that AI becomes more and more refined. It's going to be very strange what it is that we see in the future. How media is defined moving forward. It's going to be very interesting. By the way, the themes that you see in this game, very similar to Strangers of Paradise. Those games kind of overlapped in their development cycles, so it's kind of interesting. And also the same people worked on both games. The guy that made the women for this game. He also made the women for Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise and also Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Remake. Anyways, so guys, I mean, that's everything I had to think and say about this. And I don't know, you know, this is kind of a different temper, a different mood, I would say, of a video. Not that it really matters, but you know, it's just like, it's kind of deafening in a weird way, just to think about the fact that like we're really not going to have a future when it comes down to media, and we're really not going to have a future when it comes down to great storytelling. You know, here's the thing: I am making my own work, and I do know that my stuff is the best stuff that's out there. I know that I've made some of the greatest stories that will just, I mean, ever exist, effectively speaking. And I know just how deep the concepts in my, in the themes, in my narratives, just how important they are. But you know, I just don't know anymore if people really want it. And this does match, this matters a lot. This does matter for where a country goes, for where a culture goes, for where a people go. What will paint? Oh man. And see, that's the whole thing here. That's the whole thing. Yeah. What will define the spirit of a generation again? And what will define the spirit of... Man, this was such a good scene right here. Oh man. Yeah, Final Fantasy 15, man. Oh. The ending was so good. Very weird cutscene here after that, but... Yeah, man, wow. It's crazy. Anyways. I think you've lost the spirit of America. And you've lost the spirit of its people. And I don't know what it is anymore, because nobody's willing to just say that being American is being white, that being European is being white. And therefore, then, what is American media, literature? What is European literature specifically, but like media, if they even had the money to do so? Regardless. And what I'm finding is that we've lost those exact very things. And moving forward, I don't think there's anything that will actually paint the spirit of a nation for quite some time. I mean, we've seen it already for quite some time already. Recently, for like the last 10 years, maybe more, I don't know. But I mean, it's been long enough that, well, no, I mean, specifically 8 years, we can say that. It's just so sad to me, because there's such a power behind great storytelling, and we have lost that now for a long time, ever since 2016 especially. And it pains me to say this and to think about it, because we need great storytelling to have a great country, to have a great people, to have a great culture. Any great civilization has great stories. And right now, is AI going to do that? No. And I don't know in what way could AI do that. You know, I tried to think about it, and I tried to justify it in a whole bunch of ways in my mind, but no, just sincerely in the end, I don't know. I don't know how you will have media that truly defines a people and their future as a country and as a group. Because this is the problem through this mass immigration, through multiculturalism, through the race mixing and all these things going on right now today. What are the people of today? And what are these countries? And what are their cultures? And what is their history? Because right now, the history is being erased. And because that history is being erased, and the people therefore are being erased, now we're saying that their stories and anything that they could generate moving forward is being erased. And that is the very premise of this video. And that is what I find so tragic. And that is what is weighing upon me recently so heavily. I think that we're really losing what it means to be American. What is America now? You know, to be American just means that you're willing to work 40 hours in the borders of America. It means that you're just there. You know, whatever. You just showed up into America. What is American? Because once upon a time, we knew that American was the founding fathers. And we knew the race of the founding fathers. Now today, Google and their AI, Gemini, believes that the founding fathers are black women. So tell me, what is American? Is it the Constitution? Or does the Constitution no longer matter? Because there's plenty of leftists who a lot of them, they happen to be a lot of minorities, air quotes on minorities. They happen to be melanated. They happen to not care about the Constitution. They don't care about freedom of speech. In fact, freedom of speech is insulting to them. What it means to be American has now been lost for the last, I would argue, 10, 12, 15 years, ever since Obama, for sure. What does it mean to be American now? Does anybody care? Or is America just a piggy bank? Because that is now where we are. America is just a piggy bank. And we have lost what it means and what it is defined to be American. You know, man, I have such a hard time with all this. Because it pains me to see America die. You know? And it pains me to see that the spirit of America and the spirit of even Europeans, to see these things die. It pains me to see this, and it saddens me to see this. But I think I've lost all hope in where the future could go. And I mean this when I say it. I think I've lost all hope. I think that the American gene has died. I think that American stories, European stories, I think it's all gone and it's all dead. And I think that white stories, white characters, I think they're done. And I think people are so demoralized, I don't think they care anymore. Quite honestly. They pretend to care, but I don't think they really care. You know, and this is the thing for me. Of course, obviously, myself, for me, I still care. It still matters to me, all of these things. But I think what I'm noticing is how a civilization, a country of people, they've now lost all of their hope. They've lost their spirit. And now they're completely ready and willing to throw away their own people, throw away their own stories. The fact that the Little Mermaid should now be black and not a ginger-haired white girl. And people make fun of it, but people don't care. The Little Mermaid should be black. It's just funny when we look at it, but it doesn't matter. We know that Star Wars was overwhelmingly a lot of white people in space. But now it should just be melting pot in space. And who cares? Well, nobody wants to buy Star Wars anymore. Star Wars is dead today for a reason. Who cares? Well, the numbers say everyone cares. But I guess nobody cares about anything anymore because everybody is now increasingly and now in totality demoralized. This is why I say that I am at a loss, because I don't know what people want anymore. And you know, I know what it is that I believe in, and I know what it is that I value, and I know what it is that I would fight for, and that what it is I am fighting for. I am making my stories. I am writing my books. And anyone that wants proper storytelling, again, you're a retard if you don't pick up my work. You're just simply retarded. And I have no respect for you. But you know, that's where we find ourselves today. I don't know if anybody is willing to embrace a solution. I think that people, they want to make friends and they want to make as lovers with the devil that they do know. The problems that they know, the problems that they now live with. This is a disease that everyone wishes to now become a part of. And that's what it's become. Accept the hand of Satan or accept the hand of God. And everyone's found that they would rather make do with Satan rather than anything else. And that's what I find so saddening about all this, man. So this is something I'm going to be thinking more about just moving forward, but you know, for myself personally, I found it very difficult becoming the solution to a lot of wokeness in media. And for my own self, I'm not, you know, I'm not exactly, my own convictions have not waned, they're not gone, but I'm amazed at the demoralization and also the complacency of Americans plus Europeans, how they're so willing to see themselves and their fellow people be replaced. That's what amazes me. That is a funny photo card for them to be looking at. Whatever. Yeah, there's a whole thing about that in Final Fantasy 15. Anyways. So man, this is something that I'm going to be thinking about a little bit more, just moving forward. I don't know. I mean, we've been sitting here for quite some time, right? Just kind of talking about all of it, but this is just something that's been on my mind. This is something that I'm a little bit bent up about. I'm a little bit indecisive. I'm just wrestling within myself. I'm seeing the spirit of a country die, America. Europe has already seen plenty of death on its own. It's so tragic to me, but I don't, and this is the greater problem that I see, I don't know what the solution is. Because I don't think that people are willing to accept a solution. And I think that people have now made their bed with the disease, with Satan, with their problem. And now I don't know if there is a solution to any of this, you know? So anyways, man, that's it here. It pains me to kind of admit all of this. Again, this does not remove my own convictions and what it is that I believe in, but it paints a troubling omen for the future. I've spoken about this at great length about why this matters, and I do fear for the future generations. I really do. And you know, when you don't have generations of great men, you will simply be lost. As a country, as a culture, as a society, your people will be lost. And the soul of your people and their accomplishments will be lost. Oh man, you know what? Look, I noticed something about the graphical fidelity and even the rooms that you sit in this game. Notice how lackluster the details are within this game, you know, in these locations or whatever. You will notice, interestingly, I don't remember that in the game. I mean, I remember this cutscene, but I don't remember that in the game. Interesting. Well, anyways, yeah, very interesting. Huh. Okay, I mean, maybe I'm just forgetting, but yeah, clearly Final Fantasy 15 had a lot of problems regarding their having to accustom itself or having to make amends with the hardware limitations of the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. Clearly, they were not able to do much with those two consoles. And those, I mean, for a lot of games, that's why a lot of games like No Man's Sky, for instance, had a lot of problems being developed before they released. You know, Watch Dogs was another game that had tons of problems at release. And it's all because of the consoles. They were just not powerful enough, but they were being advertised as if they were powerful consoles. But anyways, yeah, man. So that's everything, guys. So, you know, I might speak about this later in the future, but you know, that's just everything from my thoughts now. It's just so sad to see that we've gone so many years now without any great storytelling, you know? Lord of the Rings was how far back now? Star Wars was how far back? And again, you know, when you don't have great stories, you don't have great men in your country, in your society, in your culture. Great men are generated by great ideals, and great ideals, they're stored within great stories. Losing these very things, you lose the very spirit of the men within your country, within your society.